Hi, Shannon.
Hello.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate it. So, our project is about student experiences within the library. So, let's get started.
Sure.
So, can you introduce yourself? Personal pronouns.
Right. So my name is Shannon and I'm from Malaysia. So ethnically I'm Chinese as well, so I'm a Malaysian Chinese. And my pronouns are confusing. Let's just keep it at that. But I'm a final year student here completing my bachelor's in computer networks and cybersecurity.
So, I've just spoken about it. So, just briefly speak some more about your Malay Chinese heritage.
Right. So first of all, we don't call ourselves Malays because Malay is like a race in Malaysia, so it's broken down into like multiple races. So essentially, it's a country with different races in it.
Yeah.
But myself, my ancestors are from China, and so my great grandparents actually migrated to Malaysia during the war. And it's bizarre and amazing because I've got to know a lot of people can't fully grasp the concept of it because they came from a nation with just one race. And so that has always been like a unique point of Malaysia, I guess, because we had multiple races all in one big pot, and it's a lot of chaos, but in it there's also a lot of fun and it's a lot of acceptance, tolerance as well, because with the different races comes different religion as well, and we sort of have to all be respectful of one another. And I think that's what makes it unique, and that's what makes it fun. On it all, I guess that's what it takes being like Malaysian Chinese.
And so, your country being a melting point and all the dynamics that you've just spoken about, how does that, can you please just explain what it means to you on a personal level?
What it means to be on a personal level. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. I love a lot of it. And I want to say, when the day goes on, as we progress, there's a lot of things that changes, and a lot of it is because of the political stance, which is a very sad thing to see, because I used to hear from my grandmother, like in the good old days, where everyone is like sitting in the same area and having like, food, sharing amongst ourselves, and that's just not something that you see like, frequently right now because of political stances and a lot of things that are going on back in Malaysia. But even despite of that, I know I still see like these things happening, even though it's like rare occasion. For example, for myself, I have friends from like, different religions. Some of my best mates are definitely from different religions and stuff like that. And when we have like go together gathering or just a simple food kind of dinner, we take the responsibility of being respectful of others. For example, my friend Mira, she's Islam, so she can't eat pork and she can't consume any alcohol. So we be extra careful when we prepare the food to not have any of these in the food, and that makes it we can all share it. And that's one of the, I think, from my experience, it's gone. It's been erased from the history essentially. Like you can't see it happening frequently, but now it's slowly coming back and slowly building up because of the awareness that people see. Like what happened to like those good old days? You can bring that back, and I think because of that, it means a lot because a lot of my friends are from different cultures and religion, different races. It would be sad to see like we're not friends. You know, I can't imagine a world without them. To be honest, like my whole support system it means a lot to me. Yeah.
And it's very nice to hear you speak so passionately about your heritage. So, how do you celebrate that back in Malaysia, and just not you, even on a wider scale? How do Malaysians celebrate, the different heritages and cultures?
Right. So that's a very interesting point because we have like different celebrations and like, different dates, different New Years. But it's bizarre because it's the whole nation coming together and celebrating something that is different to them, something that is different from their culture, from their religion. I wouldn't say in a religion standpoint that we celebrate different religious dates or different religious festivals, but we do go out and celebrate like different cultural festivals to a certain point where it doesn't cross with religion standpoint. But that's where like it grinds down to the individual's preferences. Do you know what I mean? So there are certain things that people don't like to do, and people think that it will interfere with their religion or religious beliefs. And so I respect that. I don't force people like come celebrate at my house. I don't hold them like a gunpoint, which is something really funny when you just think about it. It's just we have. I think the biggest cultural differences when I see it is because there's Eid and stuff like that, and I got to know from my friends here who celebrate Eid as well. They're like, well, we just get new clothes, right? I don't know what you're talking about, like getting money. And then I went back to my friends, like, but you do get money, right? Like Malaysia, like Muslim friends, and they're like, you get like the green packets. And so then I found out like it's actually like it's a melting point of like traditions, from Chinese traditions where we hand out the red packet, and so our Malay friends like just adopted that, and slowly it became a part of their culture. And it's just so fun seeing our cultures are melting together without us even knowing it. It's a bizarre thing. It wasn't a thing in their culture, but they slowly adopted it. And even for us, I think we even adopted some from their cultures as well. That's for sure. In terms of cooking, from our most basic day-to-day cooking, definitely there was a lot of melting points where everything comes together and you sort of see like harmony. That's like very, I think, eye-opening thing to me, that I never realized it because I was living in it. I didn't realize it, and I was out of it. I'm like, oh, that's not a thing that happens everywhere. That's just the thing that happened in my house, and I was so blind to it, to be honest.
And so how have you celebrated heritage since joining Northumbria?
Ooh, I think so personally as a Chinese, like in Malaysia, I celebrated even like Eid al-Fitr. So that's like, I would go to my friend's place, and as a Chinese myself, my family celebrates Chinese New Year. It's sad to see because like, you know, I don't really get that much of like a family feeling, or like you have like friends like gathering, but it's not the same, you know. So because that's not readily available here, so there are a lot of things that we want to do that we can't do, but improvise, and that's the main point. You know, for example, the Northumbria Nums actually have like Chinese dinners, and what we do back in my home, like how we celebrate is like we have reunion dinners, we have like the first night, and it goes on all the way to like side. It's just 7 days, a week of eating, drinking, playing, and just socializing with everyone, which is absolutely fun. I miss it dearly. But I think after coming here, I missed out a lot on the celebration. I don't really feel the vibes of the celebration that much anymore. But I think there is like in Newcastle, at the Chinatown, I believe. Yeah, they have the celebration there. It's different, don't get me wrong, but it's a good feeling of home, I would say. You know, something that I miss dearly, and that's like a very good hint of it.
I feel like you already answered this, but just in case there's something more you'd like to add. So what about your culture do you particularly enjoy celebrating? From my culture, I want to say I'm like diversified in terms of like the Chinese, Malay, and Indian cultures. Particularly for my own heritage and my own culture, what do I enjoy the most is we are the kind of, we don't really go out and say like, hey, I love you and I appreciate you. You know, swear on my life, I've never heard my parents say like, I love you, until I left the airport and they realized like, oh, my child's going abroad to study for good. Like, you know, heard them say like a single word to me, like the love that we convey in like cultures, like do like act services for people, you know. I think that's something that's not being like enough, and things that can go like the cover can go unnoticed for an entire life if you don't learn to appreciate and you don't see the things that happen like in culture. And I think that's a very big Asian thing. We don't go out and say like I love you to people, but we do it through our actions, through like sacrifices, like sacrificing. So, you know, from the name of or like your loved ones is something that's very common like in my culture, but it's also like because it's a way we show people we love them, and not just by words itself. What are you most proud about your culture and heritage?
Most proud? You know, a lot of inventions by Chinese people, but I do not claim that because it's not for me. But I think, you know, you see like culture and heritage itself, not stand from a viewpoint of all Chinese, because different from people from China, but I'm not necessarily like this. So my DNA still traces back to that. But my heritage, my culture, it comes from a Malaysian Chinese point of view. I think what I'm most proud of is how far it has came, like to a point of harmonious, because we've been through the point of destruction where there was like mixing like on water, everyone is just fighting with each other, and then we came to terms with one another. And I think that takes a lot from one culture itself to agree to let someone in, to agree to also go and like, I want to say mix with someone as well. You know, it takes a lot from all the like involved, you know. I think what I'm most proud of is because we've come so far that, you know, small differences we can set aside and we can sit down and have a good meal together, and that's
how do you think we could better celebrate diversity at Northumbria?
Oh, that's a great question. Firstly, you know, the celebration like events. It's not just to like from that culture. There are a lot of people trying to learn, and we have to give them a chance, give them a platform. And I think by opening them up, it's like an invitation for people to know us, to see us, and to hear us. I've been to like events, like, and it's just everyone that's already from that culture celebrating and having fun. I'm also extremely grateful because I have friends here, and I've actually been to like events as well. Like I'm to the Diwali, and in Malaysia we call it Deepavali, but here it's like Diwali, and it's like a bit of a mix. But it's really extremely fun, and but so sad to see because it's like I was the only one that was different, that was not from their culture and their heritage. But I was thinking like, hey, what if we open this up and we advertise it to more people who wants to see this, who don't even know this exists, because it's such a beautiful thing. About dancing around, celebrating right after dinner, and that never happens, frankly speaking. And their songs better than most of the clubs here. But yeah, I think for starters, we can learn to like try to open up these cultural events, people to come in and to learn instead of just limiting it to people from the same heritage and culture.
What Asian or which Asian authors inspire you?
Which Asian authors inspire me? It's a lot. But I think there is a specific, I can't recall the name right now, but she's like a mentor of my friend, and she writes a lot of short stories which are like from life situations. So in her story, she talks about May 13th, which is, if wrong, because I could be wrong, where talks about how that entire event unfolded in her and how in her family and how it affected her family. So the May 13th incident was an incident where an outburst like happened, like two races, and it was like a war, but that's a little bit exaggeration. It was chaos, and there was a lot of lives that were lost on that day, and that also like I think that was the calling point of the separation of Singapore from Malaysia. And so I think again, I could be all historically wrong, but that piece was like really into me, and to know that was actually one of her mentees was like, whoa, I never knew. Then she goes on to write like a lot of short stories that like bring culture of Malaysia, because Malaysian is like a very specific type of Asian, because we're not just like one heritage or one culture, or even like we come like different, and we all mix together, and that creates like a very special identity, I would say. And that author, I'll take out her name if I can, but I don't do much of reading myself because I'm dyslexic. But yeah, go out and like read audiobooks, if that makes sense. I listen to them. I don't really and as well. But one of recommendation on podcast though. And there's a good one that's going on, and it's Stop the Asian Hate. I think that it doesn't just compromise of like Asians from Asia. It also takes like experiences of Asian from like they get them to come up here and talk about their lives experiences and how we prevent this kind of thing from happening. It's a very amazing podcast as well. Yeah.
Do you have any more ideas for how the uni can celebrate, showcase cultural diversity?
I think first of all, I see that it is trying. I see that it is a starting process and it is a budding process, and I applaud it because it takes a lot to start a movement. But go on to do more bigger and more drastic movements and more bigger and drastic events which can garner more attention rather than just a small corner in a library. I'm saying that because I'm being mean, because I've seen how like from like attentions such injustice like, or to the point of like blatant racism, this goes unnoticed until a drastic thing happens, and that needs to happen if we're trying to push a movement, or if we're trying to educate people. Way in a small corner to shine, it just doesn't do that much. It is a good starting point, but we need to get out there and we need to like sort of help people like this is happening. And how do you play in like diversity? How do you play in inclusion? To go out there and have a talk with like this talks with students, which are but it has to be done.
And how uni that made you feel welcome and help create a sense of belonging?
I think for me, the uni or the library, I would say the people. So the people here has been like really welcoming, and it's not just because myself, I'm from the background and heritage where everyone mixes together. Um, but when I came here, like my friends, like most of my best friends from here are not even Malaysian, which is crazy. But I think it's the people that really helped everything came together, and I see that sense of like welcoming, the sense of tolerance, when it's a lot to improve on. That's the truth, is like this. There is a good like foundation and starting point to start with.
So, is there anything you'd like to discuss that I haven't asked, or anything you'd like to say?
No, not really. I think that covers like the basis of all of it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Using one word, how can you describe the uni library?
Uni library big. When I say big, it's big in terms of the volume of how much it can, like how much potential it can reach, but also how much more than that we can add on into it. And this not just from an educational standpoint, it's also in terms of like diversifying it, because I think a library in a university plays a very big role. And it's all from there because everyone goes there, and especially a library like Northwest where we have like asked for help. Literally every lost soul. That the week I've been like in the UK, that's where I was the whole week asking for help, and it was a really really because I have never seen a concept as such back in any university back in Malaysia. So it was always like separated. Welcome lobby is not attached to the library, and I think that's a very good thing. That's a very good standpoint, and that's a very good starting point for something to start there. And yeah, the life is big and full with potential to be discovered. Yeah.
Thank you.
Much for having me.